Thank you, sir, Secretary. I appreciate coming in front of the committee today.
Morning, Representative.
Discuss, a line item that is very, very important to many people across Pennsylvania, including members here. Can we start from when stimulus money first arrived? Obviously, the federal government borrowed that money from other nations, and it was distributed to school districts. Even if we didn't accept it, they had language in there that it would go directly to school districts, bypassing state government completely. Can you start with the year we first got stimulus money and go over basic education funding from that point up until this current year on distribution?
The federal stimulus really was applied during the 2009-2010 school year. And prior to that, just as a baseline, the federal funding for public schools in Pennsylvania was approximately $900 million, $940 million. The federal funding into Pennsylvania went to double that in 1 year to $1.8 billion, and the next year it was $2.2 billion. So that's the bump we saw in increases in the federal stimulus dollars, and that trickled off and down to the levels that it was, about $1 billion, back to the levels that it was in pre-stimulus, and that ended basically in the 11-12 school year.
How did our state funding reflect in those budgets year by year, if you could go over that?
We saw a decrease in the amount of money that state dollars was contributed to public education to marry up with the stimulus dollars. Now, what happened on the receiving end of the school district, they saw an increase in dollars. But they don't get dollars necessarily, because it was built into the basic ed formula. They don't get dollars necessarily that says this is a federal dollar or this is a state dollar. There were many voices out there that were saying, be careful how you spend this dollars, because it's going to go away in a couple of years, and be careful how you spend it. But the total amount of spending continued to increase over the last couple of years because of the federal infusion of dollars.
Was there any language put in that required school districts to use that in their operating budgets?
No, we didn't. And we had school districts that didn't use it in their operating budget. We had a lot of school districts in Pennsylvania that heard the call coming from the federal government, heard the call coming from certain quarters in Harrisburg, and said that this is one-time money, and be very careful that you don't spend this on operating expenses. Some school districts, some school boards, in conjunction with their unions, folded this stimulus dollars into their operating budgets and into their contracts. And when the federal stimulus dollars went away, they had fixed costs now associated with dollars that were no longer there.
Okay. Let's get into basic education funding. Which normally, from a legislator from a growth county like York, traditionally I'd be here arguing against this horrific funding formula. This year's a little different because through the leadership of the governor and yourself, we now have students actually started counting in the funding formula, which I appreciate, and thank you for including that. It's been a long fight of over 20 years to actually start reflecting education funding based on how many students. I just want to reflect and follow up on Representative Wheatley's questions on that. I look at York County, I look at our most impoverished school district, York City. They're getting a 1.3% increase. I look at York Suburban, the wealthiest school district in York County. They're getting a 5.7% increase. And you see the difference in the percentages. But if you, as you stated, you look at the actual number, that low 1.3% increase York City's getting is $626,000, over that much. York Suburban, that huge 5.7% increase is $94,000, which doesn't even carry over to actually fund the superintendent's salary of that school district. If I would take this a step further, and I would say, since students are the cost drivers, the more students you have, the more cost you have. Obviously, if you lose students, you lose cost to that school district. If I would take this out and flow it to actually per student funding, you would see some egregious differences in per student funding between school districts. I think it violates the equality clause of our state constitution to say that each student is actually worth less money or a different amount of money moving moving forward. But I just want to thank you for the new funding formula that actually reflects student growth moving forward. There's another part of that funding formula, and you brought it up, is it's basically the aid ratio. We've seen a huge influx in wealth in Marcellus Shale area because of a huge natural resource. I've heard stories of farmers becoming now millionaires. Has the administration looked at those wealth changes in those areas, which traditionally are considered economically hurt areas? Have you seen any aid ratio changes? Have you reflected that in your new funding formula?
The calculation for the aid ratio is changed and modified every year. So the property value and income issues in those districts are folded into the aid ratio. So they are reflected when the economics of the locality changes as well. So in some areas where we see a growth, and it is certainly in areas of the Marcellus Shale, where we're seeing a great economic expansion take place. We're seeing other areas that the aid ratio actually goes up because of an economic plant closing down or some other areas that are negatively impacting those districts. But those are modified every single year.
All right, thank you. I appreciate hearing from that. A couple of things in the governor's proposal. I'd like to bring up the passport to education, whatever it's called, trying to utilize some of the proposed liquor money changes. Obviously, that it won't be implemented in necessarily this year's budget, but on the out years. Obviously, what you're looking at doing is trying to get more money into education. Obviously, the proposal is about $1 billion. I've looked at some draft language, and I think there's some hesitation among some members thinking about how devastating the stimulus money was in education. Obviously, this isn't borrowed money from foreign countries that the federal government put into education. This is a 4-year plan moving forward. Is there, and I've obviously seen draft legislation, nothing has been introduced yet. Are you looking at strengthening that language to ensure we don't have a repeat of that, to ensure that money is not put into operational funds, and ensure that we won't see, tax increases or a funding cliff moving forward?
We will be asking the school districts to verify that they understand that this is an accelerant of moving programs forward for the school districts. So we will be looking for those qualifications. The 4 areas that you talk about in the Passport for Learning that the governor is promoting and taking the $1 billion investment into public education are very key areas that almost every school district is already doing in one form or another. Certainly we have the issue of safe schools, which is, after Connecticut, is an area of big concern. Learning by 3. Third grade is a gateway area. If you're on grade level by 3rd grade in math or language arts, your journey through K-12 is going to be much more successful than if you're not. So let's see what initiatives we can do at the 3rd grade. The individualized learning that the representative spoke about before, and making sure that children, whether it can be a hybrid education or some other tailored programs, that's a great initiative that's going forward. And 4th is STEM, which is everyone across the board understands that we need a strong STEM foundation. Representative, I get a bit of a chuckle when I hear certain members of the education groups be concerned about this money going away in 4 years. Because public education has been about grant funding for decades. And I have school districts lining up for grants, one-time funding, that I have to run competitive programs that they realize that this is one-time funding. Most of the education groups in Pennsylvania were jumping on top of the rock and saying about race to the top, that the race to the top, the prior administration went after a huge pot of money for race to the top as an investment. And frankly, in this administration, the Corbett administration, we brought in, between Striving Readers, which is a special reading program, a highly competitive grant program, $190 million of federal Striving Readers funds, and $40 million of Race to the Top funds that we, in the Corbett administration, were successful in applying for. That's an infusion of dollars to drive change, grant programs. we shouldn't pass up these opportunities to go after these grant programs. That's why we separated out and put it into a separate grant program and didn't put it in some of our line items going forward.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Would the administration be supportive of adding 2 more? We've had a moratorium on school construction, the Plan-Con process last year going into this year. There are projects within the pipeline. Obviously, when you talk about construction, you're talking about one-time use, you're talking about jobs, you're talking about an infusion into the economy, and it is a one-time use. Would the administration be supportive of utilizing some of that money for the Plan-Con process to clear them out? And I'm a firm believer that we need to look at that entire process and reform it, and it will give us the perfect opportunity to do that. And also school debt. When I look at a lot of school districts who are in fiscal recovery status and some, unfortunately, getting there, they have a high debt load to their overall operating budget. And when you reduce that debt, it provides more money in their operational funds. Would the administration be supportive of maybe adding those 2 to the overall?
Well, we're certainly welcome to having any conversation with you. I will say this: on the topics that we chose, in the areas that we chose, we believe that the money would be used to drive change in the system, and rather than pay for past mistakes or past issues, and some of those debt issues are some of those areas. But we're certainly willing to engage in the conversation.
I appreciate that. Also, I want to hit on a major change. It was in the governor's budget address. It was in the line item books. The administration has talked about that, but that's the mandate waiver program, which is null and void. It was under the School Empowerment Act, had a sunset clause to it. It's now gone. School districts, it was a great program for school districts to help reduce their costs, and as time of financial uncertainty, I'm a full supporter in reauthorizing that program. Can you go into that program, the administration's position, and whether we need to look at that program or look at, expanding the initial program to pick up some stuff that may have been implemented since the foundation of it?
That was a program that's in great demand for the school districts, the mandate waiver program. What the governor would like to do would be to provide as much flexibility as possible for school districts to look at innovative ways of providing instruction. It could be ways to accelerate moving away from the Carnegie units. And what are those problems? It should be those 3 school districts I was talking about in Lancaster, that some of the areas that they are providing instruction across districts by using 1 person and 1 employee. I look at what the law that was expired in 2010 as a floor at which we should start a conversation. Now, there are many organizations that will come before you and want to protect their area so as to weed away from that. But I think that could be a potential floor in driving more and more change and more flexibility down at the local level.
Because we hear it all the time from our school board: stop the mandates, free our hands so we can better educate our students. And it's tough for us to sit here in Harrisburg and say, definitively, this is the path that will be successful for all 500 school districts. It's not the case. You could basically break down Pennsylvania to probably 6 or 7 different, states that are kind of coordinated. So I appreciate the governor's leadership on removing mandates. There's one thing that you had in last year's budget that you didn't bring up, and that was the block grant for education. You had a block grant for human services funding, which we turned into a pilot program. 20 counties did it. It's been very successful to allow the county commissioners to move money around and base their budgets on their needs. Is that something moving forward the administration still would like to see, more educational block grants to free up?
Well, I think that we proposed that initiative last year because we did hear a lot from school districts who said that they wanted the flexibility in using these monies around. We put the proposal out there, and all of a sudden we heard from school districts that said, no, we don't want the flexibility. We want the guarantee of certain line items. So we welcome that discussion.